Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be discussing language learning and mental health, as I feel like this is a very important topic, not just to me but to everybody else that I have followed. Like, people have talked about mental health and mental well-being, and so I thought I'd make a video on it. Um First things to note is that I do have experience in the mental health department, and I am also cognitively challenged with autism and ADHD. And yes, I have diagnoses for these things. So you're talking to somebody who has real life perspective, and this is an important topic, not just because of that and everything else, but bringing mental health awareness is also very, very, very important. So, I know a lot of anxiety and depression comes from people wanting to achieve fluency quick, is what I've noticed. And honestly, I feel that, or like trying to reach up to the next level really quick, like with my Spanish, like going from like nivel B1 up to nivel B2. And the reason is that like you want to be like, oh, like the best you can be, even though sometimes you're not want to be perfect. And I think being perfectly imperfect is a perfect mindset to have, because you're perfect at being imperfect so you can learn from the mistakes that you are going to make. Like, for me, when it came to Korean last week, I really, really, really struggled with writing my essay prompt, like for my journal. And like last week at the time of recording this video, I really, really realized that I'm still struggling with learning Korean. Like, I have mastered reading and writing Hangul, but getting basic phrases down is still a challenge for me. And that's totally okay, and that's totally normal. And I feel like people aren't normalizing it as much to make mistakes, and people like want to be like picture perfect when it comes to their like second language, like native level instantly, or oh, native level in 90 days. Like, in 90 days, like, you'd be lucky to jump a whole level, even if you do it every day. Like, I think in Spanish at this point, and I'm still a B wine. Like, I'm still B wine. And am I reading stuff that is like B2 C1 level and doing some activities that are at B2 or C1 level? Yes, because I'm challenging myself. And it's okay to challenge yourself and do activities that people in an upper level than you would be doing. But that can also lead to burnout, and I faced major burnout with Spanish, so I'm trying to like stick to intermediate stuff, B1, B2, as I know I'm approaching B2. But that's one thing, and that can really, really alter your mood. I mean, I've also noticed that people really get burnt out very quick, and that's a mood changer. And I just really like want to say that burnout is something that's really challenging. Like, I get autistic burnout all the time, and sometimes like that can be stressful, especially learning multiple languages. Like, if you get burned out with one, you slowly start burning out of the others. Like, I burnt out of Hebrew really fast in like August and September. I barely did any Hebrew because I burnt out so quick. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, This is why I'm trying not to burn myself out with Russian. That's why I'm like, oh, if this day I've done 2 languages or 3 languages, let me not approach Russian because I want to just be burnt out and not do it or not give a shit, you know? And so what I'm trying to do is be a better language learner as a whole and prioritize what's important to me. And also, doing too many languages can burn you out. And I think I realized that 4 or 5 is my threshold. 6, if I want to dabble, I can do more than 6. But 5, 6 is capacity for me at a time, and that's like 3 a day. If I do study every day and do every other day different languages, I can switch it up. And I think that's a good thing to do, is switching your routine up a little bit each day, but also try to maintain your languages when you're not actively studying is also important. And I feel like not doing that could hinder mental health. So, like, if you focus more in the textbooks, maybe you work on an app like Polyglot where it's like basically messaging, or have a language exchange partner, or write journals if you love writing. If you love reading, read books. Like, play video games, play video games. Like, I love playing video games, and I'm playing Pokemon Shield in Spanish right now, and I'm going to start playing a video game in Italian and in German very soon. Italian's probably going to come first, then German, but like, doing different things, or like reading short stories. I have a short stories app for Korean, and that has helped my reading so much. And if you're like religious and you're learning Arabic, you can read the Quran. If you are Jewish, you can read the Torah and the Talmud in Hebrew. If you're learning Hebrew, um, if you're a Christian, you can pretty much translate the Bible in any language basically at this point. Um, you can use the Bible. If you're of X religion and there's a native language to that religion, or resources for that religion in textbooks and texts in that language, you can use that. I just listed examples of the Abrahamics because that's what I'm familiar with. Um, but like, like, you can you can just try to talk to yourself even, or like put notes around your house of like different vocab words. Like, for example, let's take the word schlep, which is the Russian word for bread. I could take a sticky note and put it on the bag of like bread and say, write schlep and say, and just write the word and have like sticky notes. I could put sticky notes across my room, like on my flag that I'm using as my curtain. I could say bandera, which is like the Spanish word for flag. Um, or I can say, have my jacket hanging up, and let's say it's a black jacket. Like, I can say giacca nera, which literally it means black jacket in Italian, or etc. Like, do some activity or something like that. Like, try to also improve pronunciation. I know like social anxiety can be intimidating for language learners to deal with, and honestly, that is valid. Like, I feel like I'm more socially anxious when speaking another language than English, but it's died down when it comes to Japanese and Spanish. because those are the languages I'm most fluent in outside of English. And so, like, I'm very comfortable talking in Spanish and Japanese versus other languages, but if those two languages aren't at play, I'd be more comfortable speaking French and Italian than anything else. Um, and if I need to count, I can probably count in like Turkish or something. But it's like social anxiety is really real for language learners, and I feel like every language learner, even if they don't have a diagnosis of social anxiety, they experience it to a degree, because you can be very nervous to even speak your second language. Like, every time, like, I try to speak Italian, I'm really nervous to do that. Um, and I want to just say that's valid. Like, that's valid if you are nervous, even if you actually do have a diagnosis of social anxiety. Like, I feel like that's also valid in this situation as well. And I don't want to minimize people with social anxiety and their experiences. But I feel like language learning is very difficult for those who have anxiety. And I have severe anxiety. I get panic attacks and whatnot. So, like, it's totally normal. And, like, yeah, like, it's totally normal. And one more thing I really do want to touch up on before I wrap up this video is being in the mood to study. I feel like a lot of people, when they're in the mood to study, they get to the grind. And when they're not, it's more of like a lazy day, like podcasts and stuff like that. And I feel like that's totally justifiable. Or vice versa. Like, if you really just want to do something, but all you're in the mood for is a podcast, like, you can turn on a podcast or something. Sometimes I do that, and one time I actually ended up taking a nap to my German podcast, which honestly, that was great. That was, like, literally great. Um, and then I had to adjust my a tracker because of that, because I slept for 10 minutes before I actually woke up and realized that the podcast was over. But also, like, just doing something like more low key and immersive instead of studying is also, like, really important. And if you're in the mood for that, go for it. I would just say do whatever is going to be the best for you that day, because things can change on a whim. Like, how, like, for example, I had mini immersion planned, last mini immersion, which was in September, and literally I was getting hit by a tropical storm the entire weekend, basically. And I didn't know if I was going to have power. I ended up having power, but that changed the plans for me studying Spanish and other languages. Like, I ended up solely focusing on Korean and, like, Dene and Spanish, and I think I did a little bit of Japanese, and I did some Hebrew at the end because of Yom Kippur. But just an example of how things can change, and that can also be stressful on people. So people need to take that into account when it comes to their language learning, is like how their life is going, etc. as well. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to talk about this, you can comment down below. Follow me on social media and send me a DM on Threads and Instagram at diana.lingual, or email me, and I will drop the email address down below where you can email me. And I hope you all have a great day and have a happy and healthy time zone wherever you are in the world. Okay, bye everybody.